Hello everybody. Today we are going to talk about harmonic progression and harmonic rhythm. So harmonic progressions are we talked about how to decide which voices go where when you're already given the bass line. Now this is telling us how we come up with a bass line, right? So that's what the harmonic progression is. How do we decide which chords go in which order? So let's jump right in. And I think homework this week isn't gonna be too bad because it's a lot of repetition in the book and we're not gonna do all of it. So anyway, let's get right to it. So our book says in the previous chapters, we've focused attention on voice leading and two voice and four voice textures. Now we're going to concentrate on harmonic progression, the way in which chords succeed each other in a piece of music. So again, harmonic progression is just the way the chords succeed each other. And then harmonic rhythm is, how many beats do those chords take up? Are they moving in dotted half notes? Are they moving in whole notes? Like how fast are those chords moving, basically? How many beats does it take? All right, so let's get right into it. There is one thing I want to read in here. It's at the top of page 214 if you're reading along. So in tonal music, the tonic chord is the most stable chord, all right? And we know that. I mean, you always want to go back to one, right? Sorry, I'm trying to turn the piano on. Hello. All right, so most stable chord, the tonic chord. Chords that move away from the tonic, right, tend to create tension. So the further away you get from tonic, or the notes that are in that tonic chord, the more tension you create, right? So the further away you move, the more tension. Those that progress towards the tonic give fulfillment and relax the tension caused by the departure, right? So complete tonal compositions invariably end with the tonic triad and more often than not begin with that same chord. So again, I've said this a lot of times, if you need to figure out the key of a piece, look at the first chord, look at the last chord, 99% chance that they're the same, but it's always going to usually start on the tonic, sometimes the dominant, but most of the time the tonic, and it's always going to end on the tonic. So, root relationships. So this is how the root of each chord relates to each other, right? So generally it's the bass line, but not always. So root relationships govern the relationship of chords in succession. Together they help organize phrases, periods, sections, and other musical units. Essentially, they're the ones that do the work of creating a cadence, right? And cadences define our periods and phrases. And other musical units, whatever they mean by that. So these forces are, the two forces that govern these are the relationship of the chords to the prevailing tonality. So how does it relate to the tonic? All right, that's what they're saying. And the intervals formed by the roots of adjacent chords. So what sort of intervals are they moving in, right? So the root of each chord, is it moving down a fifth, then down a fifth, and then up a third? Like what kind of bass line is it creating? That's the idea. So how are those roots moving? Not necessarily the bass line, but the root of the chord. How are those chords moving? So is it going from a 1 chord to a 5 chord to a 2 chord? Well, how is it moving? So the triads constructed on each of the scale degrees relate to the tonic triad, which is the point of rest and the goal of harmonic progression. So we know this. I mean, we talked about this in melody. We talked about this in chapter 7 with melody. We've talked about it for a long time. Music has to start on a tonic, right? And then it progresses away from the tonic, creates tension, right? And then it goes back to tonic. And there's a really, really, really good video by Benjamin Zander. It's about 20 minutes long. It's a little long, but it's a TED Talk, and it's amazing. He's talking about music, and he talks a lot about this idea of you've got to create tension and go away from home, right? And then you go back to home. Okay, so let's talk about the most, I would say, important chord progression there is, and that is called the circle progression. So this is the most common and strongest of all harmonic progressions. So basically, the chord roots move in ascending or descending fourth or fifth relationships, all right? So if we start with a 1 chord, in the key of, I don't know, let's say E, all right? So if I'm just doing roots, right, we have E, and then we'll jump down a fifth, and down another fifth, all right, and then maybe up a fourth, and yeah, so this is, we'll call it E flat, because I'm lazy. And up a fourth. And you basically keep going until you get back to E. Up another fourth. Down a fifth. Down a fifth. Up a fourth. Up a fourth. We made it. All right. I wasn't sure if we were. Right? But you can see, basically it's just any chord that either descends as a perfect fifth or ascends as a fourth. All right? So here we go. Descending fifth, descending fifth, all right, ascending fourth, ascending fourth, ascending fourth, okay? And if we do our lovely, lovely chord progression here, I can play it for you on the piano, hopefully. Let's see. If I can play backwards. All right, so we start on E flat, go down to A flat, down to D. Oh, it's a tritone. Have to be a D flat. That's okay. We can get away with it. All right? Tritones are okay. And then we've got G, up a fourth, up a fourth, up a fourth, down. Oh, we went down a fourth. Whoops, that's my bad. You have to go down a fifth. So you go down a fifth. Maybe down another fifth. Up a fourth. There we go. Then we made it. So basically you're just meandering around in ascending fourths and descending fifths. And that essentially makes a circle progression. Now there's a specific kind of circle progression that we use. So this is called a circle progression. So basically chords float around in descending fifths. And ascending fourths until we come back to tonic. All right, so that's the essential element of a circle progression. It's made up of descending fourths and perfect fifths. And you can see in your book right here, 10.2, they've got a really good example. They map out. And you notice it can be descending fourths or perfect fifths, still considered a progression. Because if you constantly have all descending fifths or all ascending fourths, you're going to end up with a really crazy looking bass line that will be out of this world. So that's the key there. Now, if you use progressions built on consecutive ascending fourths and descending fifths, you can get some pretty wild patterns. So this super common circle progression, it basically boils down to this. Going to go in major, and of course minor is just going to change whether the chords are major or minor. The progression itself is going to stay the same. So it goes 1 to 4, so we're going up in ascending fourths, up to 7, diminished 7. Then from 7 we loop back around, we keep moving past the tonic, and we move to 3. And 3 then goes to 6, which goes to 2. So we loop back around and keep moving. All right, which then goes to 5, which then goes to 1. And guess what is a perfect authentic cadence? Oh, what? Crazy! Ding, ding, ding. And this, with the 2, is a very, very, very common ending. All right, 2, 5, 1. So keep that in mind. This is the golden circle progression. Half of the songs you know are based on it. All right? I think every rock band in the world, their songs are basically that. Let's see. And you can hear it. This pattern is really common because it basically ends up going up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, up a fourth, down a fifth, if you're actually putting it in the bass line. So here we go.